Have you ever felt as though your life is a record, skipping on the same worn groove, playing a melody you desperately wish to end, but find yourself unable to stop humming? If you find yourself nodding along to these invisible rhythms, I invite you to subscribe to Invisible Patterns, where we peel back the layers of the psyche to reveal why we are the architects of our own repeating cycles. Imagine walking through a fog-laden forest where every path you choose, regardless of its direction, leads you back to the exact same ancient oak tree. You recognize the gnarled roots, the specific way the moonlight filters through its branches, and the familiar chill that settles in your chest as you realize you have returned to the start. This is not a matter of geography, but of biology and memory, a silent script written in the ink of your earliest experiences. We often believe we are masters of our own destiny, making cold, calculated choices based on logic and desire. Yet beneath the surface of the conscious mind, an older, more impulsive engine is driving the car. Why do we sabotage the very things we claim to want? Why do we gravitate toward the partners who mirror our childhood wounds, or the professional habits that guarantee our own stagnation? The answer is not as simple as a lack of willpower, nor is it a curse of bad luck. It is a protective, albeit misguided, mechanism of the brain that prefers the familiarity of a known hell over the terrifying uncertainty of an unknown heaven. To understand this, we must look at the way the human brain prioritizes survival over happiness. When we were children, our brains were sponge-like, absorbing the dynamics of our environment as if they were universal laws. If you grew up in a home where love was conditional, your brain learned that to be worthy of belonging, you must perform, you must strive, and you must never be truly vulnerable. That lesson, once a survival tool, becomes the ghost in the machine when you reach adulthood. Now, in the present, you find yourself sabotaging relationships the moment they become intimate. You might pick a fight, pull away, or focus exclusively on your professional performance, all because your brain perceives intimacy as a threat to your stability. It is a paradox of self-preservation. Your mind is trying to save you from a childhood trauma by recreating it, because at least within the recreation, you know exactly what is coming. You are the protagonist of a story that feels like a prison, yet the keys are hidden in the very habits you have spent years perfecting. Consider the sensation of standing at a precipice. You have a goal, a vision of the person you want to become, or the life you want to lead, and yet every time you take a step toward it, an invisible hand drags you back. You might call it laziness or fear of failure, but there is a more clinical term for it: repetition compulsion. It is the unconscious urge to repeat past experiences, specifically the ones that caused us pain, in an attempt to master them. We think that if we just pick the same type of cold, distant partner one more time, we will finally be able to make them love us, thus proving we were worthy all along. We think that if we repeat the same patterns of procrastination, we can somehow solve the underlying anxiety that has haunted us since we were 10 years old. But the repetition does not lead to mastery. It leads to exhaustion. The pattern is not a riddle to be solved. It is a trap built from your own expectations of reality. The environment you navigate today is likely vastly different from the environment you endured as a child, yet your nervous system treats them as identical. This is why you feel a sudden, irrational spike of adrenaline when a partner asks for a deeper commitment, or why you feel a crushing sense of inadequacy when a manager offers constructive feedback. Your brain is not responding to the current event. It is responding to a ghost. It is reacting to the feeling of being judged, cornered, or abandoned that you felt decades ago. You are living in a time loop of emotional reactivity. To break this, you must learn to witness your own mind as if you were a stranger observing a fascinating, if somewhat tragic, subject. When the urge to sabotage arises, when you feel that familiar itch to burn a bridge or retreat into isolation, you must pause. That pause is the only space where you possess true autonomy. Without the pause, you are merely a reflex. With the pause, you become a human being capable of choice. But why is the pause so difficult to achieve? Because the brain loves efficiency. It loves patterns. Habits require very little energy, while conscious, deliberate choices are metabolically expensive and emotionally taxing. Your brain would rather you suffer through a familiar, painful habit than expend the energy required to forge new neural pathways. It is choosing the path of least resistance, which happens to be a path that leads directly off a cliff. This is the physiological reality of self-sabotage. It is not an act of malice against yourself, it is an act of laziness by your biology. To change, you must demand that your brain do the one thing it hates most: process new, uncertain information in real time. You must force yourself to notice the moment the internal script begins to play. You must label it, call it by its name. Say to yourself, I am feeling the urge to withdraw because I am afraid of being seen. By naming the impulse, you strip it of its power to act through you without your consent. This process is not linear. There will be days when you fall back into the old ways, when the gravity of your past patterns proves too strong to resist. In those moments, shame is your greatest enemy. Shame tells you that you are broken and that you are doomed to repeat these mistakes forever. But shame is just another layer of the pattern. It is the voice that tells you that you are not worthy of change. When you fail, you must treat your own psyche with the clinical curiosity of a scientist rather than the cruelty of a judge. A scientist does not get angry at a failed experiment. They analyze the data. They look at the conditions that led to the failure and they adjust the variables. What triggered the regression? Was it a lack of sleep, a specific interaction, a sudden sense of being overwhelmed? By tracking these triggers, you begin to map the landscape of your own unconscious behavior. You start to see the patterns before they manifest as actions. You might wonder if you can ever truly be free of these shadows. Can a person ever be entirely new? The truth is, we are never entirely new, but we can become vastly more complex. We can layer new experiences over the old ones, until the old ones no longer dictate the outcomes of our lives. This requires a profound level of honesty. You have to admit that there are parts of you that benefit from your own misery. Perhaps your habit of being a victim brings you comfort because it absolves you of the responsibility to change your life. Perhaps your tendency to choose unavailable partners allows you to avoid the vulnerability of a real, authentic connection. These are uncomfortable truths, but they are the only ones that grant you freedom. Once you acknowledge the secondary gain, the hidden benefit you derive from your own sabotage, you can find healthier ways to satisfy those needs. You can replace the need for drama with the need for growth. You can replace the need for control with the need for connection. Let us consider the nature of resistance. Whenever you attempt to create a positive change, you will face resistance. It will feel like a physical weight, a dense, suffocating pressure that makes you want to crawl back into your old, comfortable, miserable life. This resistance is proof that you are moving in the right direction. If you feel no resistance, you are likely still within the confines of your old patterns. The moment you feel the urge to run, to quit, or to self-destruct is the exact moment you are closest to a breakthrough. It is the threshold of the known and the unknown. Most people turn back here. They interpret the resistance as a sign that they have made a mistake. They think, I must be doing this wrong because it feels so hard. But the hardship is the price of admission to a new way of living. It is the sound of the old neural pathways trying to maintain their grip and the sound of new ones beginning to knit together. You are not a static entity. You are a process. You are the sum of your experiences, but you are also the interpreter of those experiences. You get to decide what your past means. You can look at your history of broken relationships and see a pattern of bad luck, or you can see a series of lessons about your own boundaries and your own worth. You can look at your professional stalls and see evidence of your incompetence, or you can see the ways in which you were protecting yourself from the pressure of success. The narrative you weave about your life becomes the life you live. If you tell yourself that you are a person who always fails, your brain will work tirelessly to ensure that narrative remains accurate. If you tell yourself that you are a person who is learning to navigate complex emotions, your brain will begin to look for ways to prove that true. It is important to understand that the people in your life, your family, your friends, your colleagues, are often the strongest enforcers of your old patterns. They have a version of you that they are comfortable with, a version that fits into their own internal scripts. When you start to change, they may subconsciously try to pull you back, not because they are malicious, but because your change disrupts their sense of balance. They might point out your old flaws, minimize your growth, or express skepticism about your new direction. This is a crucial test of your resolve. You must be willing to let go of the version of you that they expect, even if it means letting go of the relationships that depend on you being that person. Growth is inherently isolating. It requires you to step away from the familiar, even when the familiar is populated by the people you love. There are no shortcuts here. You cannot meditate your way out of a lifetime of conditioning in a weekend. You cannot read a book and suddenly be the person you were meant to be. This is a slow, methodical process of excavation. You are digging through the dirt of your own history to find the core of who you are, the person who exists beneath the survival strategies and the defense mechanisms. You will find things you do not like. You will find shame, anger, and deep-seated fears, but you will also find resilience, creativity, and a capacity for connection that you never knew you possessed. This is the work of a lifetime. It is the only work that truly matters. When you realize that the cycle is not something being done to you, but something you are doing, the power shifts. The responsibility is heavy, but it is also liberating. Because if you are the one doing it, you are the one who can stop it. Think about the next time you feel the urge to repeat a mistake. Stop, breathe. Feel the sensation of the impulse rising in your chest. Notice the heat, the tension, the sudden clarity of the urge to act. Observe it as if it were a cloud passing in the sky. Do not fight it. Do not judge it. Just watch it. Give it space. You will find that if you do not feed the impulse with action, it begins to dissipate. It loses its charge. It becomes a fading memory rather than a directive. This is the art of self-mastery. It is the ability to hold the space between your impulse and your action. In that space, you will find the freedom to choose a different path, one that does not lead back to the same gnarled oak tree in the forest. You will find that you can walk in a new direction, toward a horizon you have never seen before. As we conclude this exploration, remember that every cycle you break is a gift to your future self. You are clearing the path of the debris left by those who came before you and by the experiences that shaped your youth. This is not about forgetting the past, but about integrating it so that it no longer dictates your present. You are the author of your own story, even if you have spent most of your life writing the same chapter over and over again. You have the pen in your hand right now. You can choose to start a new paragraph. You can choose to change the tone, the plot, and the outcome. The patterns that have haunted you are not immutable laws. They are habits of the mind that can be rewired with patience, persistence, and a radical commitment to self-honesty. If you found value in this journey into the architecture of your own mind, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and join our community here at Invisible Patterns. This is where we continue to explore the hidden mechanics of human behavior and where we learn to transform our internal conflicts into quiet, steady growth. Do not let this information slip away into the ether of forgotten content. Take it with you into your week. Notice the patterns as they arise. Name them when they appear. Give yourself the grace of the pause. You are not destined to repeat your mistakes. You are destined to learn from them, to outgrow them, and to move forward into a life that is truly your own. The mystery of why we do what we do is only a mystery until we decide to look at it. And once you have looked, you can never go back to blindness. You have the power to break the cycle. Start today, one breath at a time, and watch as the world around you begins to change, because you finally decided to change within.